Well, hello. Thank you for taking 5 minutes out of your day. This is our Take Five segment where we take 5 minutes, usually on a Friday, give you a bit of a preview of what we're going to be discussing on the Sunday coming up. So, the Sunday I'm referring to is the 11th of December. We hope that your Christmas shopping and plans and all that stuff to celebrate Jesus' entrance into the world is going well. Well, what are we going to be looking at on the Sunday coming up here? Now, if you've been a part of our tradition for many years now, we celebrate the Advent Sundays. And if you're not familiar with what Advent means, Advent simply means arrival or coming. It is a way to prepare our hearts to celebrate the day that we've selected, December 25th, right? To celebrate the entrance of our Savior, Jesus. And so if you're familiar with the Sundays of Advent, there's hope, there's peace, there is love, and there's joy. And then the center of those candles surrounds the Christ candle. And the reason why is because Christ is the center, he is the foundation of all of those attributes that I just mentioned: joy, hope, peace, and love. Without Christ at the center, nothing really makes sense. So we've been walking through the short letter to the Philippian church as we've been marching toward Christmas. We know that joy is a central theme in the message, or the very short letter of Philippians. 16 times the word joy, or a form of joy, rejoice, is mentioned in this very short letter of the Apostle Paul to a church that he loved, a church that he never expected, or a city, I should say, he never expected to visit. But God had other plans, right? And so a church was established, a gathering of people, two families, the household of Lydia and the household of a Roman jailer, very unlikely people, began this pocket of believers in this city called Philippi, right? And so this pocket of believers, Paul is writing to them a couple years after he visited them, and he knows that they are facing persecution, and he also knows that they're facing an uncertain future in terms of the details. And Paul, who better to speak about an uncertain future than a guy who is sitting in a Roman prison, wondering how this last trial, he's already gone through 3, he appeals to Caesar. He knows this is the final stop. Either he is going to be released or he is going to be sentenced to death, right? And so you would imagine if there's anybody who would want to know what the future has in store, it would be the Apostle Paul. And yet we're going to look at a handful of verses on Sunday where Paul talks not so much about wanting to know what the future has in store, but he wants to be assured, and he wants the Philippian believers to be assured in their future as well. You can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but you can predict your behavior, right? And so that is what we are going to be discussing. Paul, if there's anybody who we would have understood that, justifiably so, Paul would want to know, God, give me some revelation here. Am I going to be released or am I going to be sentenced to death? But Paul doesn't say that. He's more concerned about his behavior. He's more concerned about his response, whatever the future has in store. There are several movies that come to my mind. When I was a kid, Back to the Future was a big deal, that movie. And I remember watching this and thinking, oh, it would be so nice to have that sports almanac, right? And be able to be like Biff and go and predict the future while you're in the past, right? There's a number of TV shows, little reboots that we're seeing now as well, like Quantum Leap, and things like this. We are obsessed with wanting to know the future, and this is nothing new. Throughout history, there have been fortune tellers, there have been people with crystal balls, there have been people that, claim to know the future, and so they prophetically claim that this is going to happen. We are obsessed with knowing the future. And Christians, we can get caught up in that if we're not careful. In fact, the very first king of Israel, a guy by the name of Saul, got caught up in that, and that really led to his demise. He went to a fortune teller, a medium, a spiritist, and that was completely out of order, and he knew it. You can desire to know God's will for the wrong reasons. And there's a reason why the Apostle Paul was not given foresight into what was going to occur. And because he was spiritually mature, and if there's anybody who was spiritually mature, we have to say it was the Apostle Paul. He was not so concerned about wanting to know the details of the future, but he was very concerned about how he can predict his behavior, however the future kind of played out. So we're going to be looking at that on Sunday. We hope that you will join us in person at 10 o'clock. If not, you can always watch us on YouTube. God bless and have the great remainder of your day.